Should we talk about it? This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod.
Support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble.
Avenelli coming alive again. Juninho wants the ball played to him. Avenelli spots out Emerson.
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Jonny, Dana and Tom. We are the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro Matchday Chatter in a podcast. And we're bottom of the league. How funny is that? We're bottom of the league with 1 point from 5 games. A defeat against QPR. Sees Boro have the worst start since 2003, which we said last week, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. But Dana, how are you feeling? Let's have your one key takeaway.
Oh God, I feel like shit. My one key takeout is that we have completely abandoned last season's setup, and I do not know why. I think it's perplexing at this point. I know that we don't have the same personnel. I know that we can't copy the loanees that we had. We can't duplicate them. But I still don't feel like that prompts us to basically change tact the way that we have. Last season we had that 3-2-5 build out, and I do apologise because you're going to hear 3-2-5 quite a lot. It's going to be one of my collection of cliches apparently. But we had the 3 centre backs. Lenihan, Fry, Tommy Smith would move into a right centre half position. We would have Housen and Hackney in the midfield too. We would have the width with our left back playing as a left wing back, and we'd have our right winger, and then we would have basically a central 3 of the left winger, the number 10 and the striker. And now we're more playing like a 4-2-4, and I'd say 4-2-4 because our fullbacks are so deep. Like, why do we have no width? Why is everything so narrow, so central? Why is there no outlet? There's just a lot of questions, and as I said, I'll reiterate, I know we don't have the same personnel, but I don't feel like that is... I don't feel like we should change tact because of that. Because Lucas Engel, Alex Spangura, whoever plays there, they're basically being told to sit back and to come narrow, and they can be told to advance and stay wide. So I don't know. It's really, really puzzling. A lot of people want to know what's going on with Boro. Who the fuck knows?
I know everything. I'm joking. Tom, what's your key takeaway from yesterday's game and in the week as well?
Pain. Just pain. Yeah, I think my key takeaway is there's so much work to be done in the next couple of weeks and the international break. Just to touch on what Dana was saying there about the 3-2-5 and build up, I heard her talk about that on BBC Tees yesterday. And I was just like, I agree with it so much because although it's the same formation now, it's nowhere near the same system or the same roles. And it's so frustrating to watch. It's frustrating to watch a left wing back who daren't cross the halfway line until, he's told to at half time, or, playing with inverted wingers who are constantly coming in central and having everything blocked. It's just a frustrating thing to watch. And I don't know if, something to do with the absolute tactical battle that Carrick had with Mark Robbins at the end of last season has potentially had something to do with this. But I don't know, I just feel like he's kind of like really overthinking everything at the moment. Like in that Huddersfield game where he said, we told Engel to kind of sit back because Huddersfield's system of man marking and stuff. And I'm like, why at home at Huddersfield are we giving a Neil Warnock side that much respect? Like, just play your own game. The results will come. And Maddo made a great point on the phone and as well, in that he said a coach will come in sometimes, look at the players he has at his disposal and think what's the best way to get the best out of these players. And I feel like Carrick did that last season. I think the formation that he had set up from pretty much when he came in was spot on for the personnel we had. You've got it set up perfectly to utilise Ryan Giles, to utilise Chuba Akpom. I don't think that's it. I don't think it's utilising anyone to the strengths at the moment. The only one I could potentially say is being used to their strength is Latte Laff, because he's making a lot of runs through, not being picked up a lot of the time. But he is getting in those positions. I think he probably missed about 5 or 6 1-on-1s yesterday, which is probably not what we want to be seeing from him at all. I think I've got to give Begovic credit for making himself big in those situations. But it's probably... Latte Laff's probably the only person I can say is being utilised to play to his strengths in this formation. But it's nowhere near the same system as last season or same roles. But I appreciate we've had a big change in personnel, but if a different formation and a different system is going to get the best out of these players, we should be doing it. I just don't think I don't think that we know what the best formation or system for these players is, and this should have been done in pre-season. We've had plenty of time to actually test it, and now I feel like it's been tested in the first 5 games of the season, and we still don't know. So, yeah, to come back to it, a lot of work to be done in the next 2 weeks. I think considering, 2 of our biggest coaches, one's ex-England international, used to play for Man United, and to see, one of the best passers of the ball as well, to add onto that, and then see our centre midfielders with such a poor choice of pass selection yesterday. And, the one of his assistant coaches, ex-England international, Real Madrid centre-back, and we can't get a defence actually organised. So we need to be working extra hard on the training ground in this next 2 weeks, because I don't want to be seeing this for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's a strange position to be in, isn't it? I think the Mackie takeaway for me is, if you don't finish your chances, you get punished. We've created plenty of chances in the games that we've played this year, and not taken them, and been punished for it. I'm just thinking of Sammy Silvera. He's had a couple of chances where Huddersfield, Coventry, those games change. We win those games, or we go at least get something from them. Yesterday, Latte Laff had a few chances, hasn't put them away. And I think if these chances happen, you have a completely different conversation, don't you? You think, oh, well, 9 points from 15, like, that's quite a decent start, a lot of transition changing. The fact that we haven't got any changes the whole narrative as well. And, you'll hear underlying numbers suggesting, I'll come on to it a little bit later on, but our numbers are actually quite good. It's just there's some things that have fell off a cliff, like our pressing. I think it's fell off a cliff a little bit. We're not as a collective pressing unit anymore. The 4-2-4 system, look, and how you play possession and all this kind of stuff, it all relies on off the ball movement, really. I think when you're looking at how the best teams will look to try and manipulate play, Manchester City, for a prime example, they're happy to play a little bit slower, possession based, or play the long ball over the top. But the aim is off the ball movement will get you the space, and then once you've got space, you create plenty of options for yourself. But we haven't done that, and I think that is the reason why we are where we are. I think confidence is on the floor. I think there was too much yesterday around not wanting to take a chance. I think Latte Laff for me, and I'll come on to it in a bit, has unbelievable movement at times. He's always trying to get him around the defender. He's always in that little pocket of space. He's always on his side. He's trying to get ready for the run. I'm just not picking him out. I think we're too happy to try and play it to Hackney, and then back to McNair, and back to the goalkeeper, and then to the other side, and we'll try and horseshoe it. Have that confidence and belief that sometimes if you give the ball away, that is absolutely fine. I'd rather someone give the ball away trying to play the right pass, or an extravagant pass, than just constantly trying to play it safe. And I think that's why we're seeing what we're seeing at the moment. But we have got a win to talk about, because we did come behind at the tough sheet to win 3-1. And then, is that an indicator at all, maybe, that what could be this season? Because the first half was quite poor. The second half was much, much better.
The second half showed what should be right now. A team passing with intent, with purpose. with quickness and tempo, because that put Bolton under significant pressure. I noticed in the second half as well, immediately we had I think we had 2 players booked in a period of maybe 30 seconds because we were actually pressing. That wasn't just us closing down. It was an organised team press. But it had to be better than the first half because it was absolutely terrible. You would have thought that Boro were the League One side and Bolton were the Championship side. And to be honest, you could tell within the first 2 minutes exactly how Bolton were trying to attack us and to exploit us, because I think Dil Fry's man marking Carlos Mendes Gomez a point within that opening 2 minutes, and he flies out to the right-hand side to track him, and then our defence shifts over, Engel moves in central, but there's far too much of a gap between him and Lenihan, and make a note of that because it was a big problem in their goal. Sheehan makes a run into that space, but thankfully Engel manages to cover, which in fairness to Engel, he's good at covering, but a lot of the time it's actually him recovering because his position is just not it. Like he's constantly, I feel like he's not being utilised in the way that I feel like he should be, but also defensively, I think his position is a bit poor. But yeah, our defensive shape as a collective is a mess. We allow far too much room between the fullback and the centre half. I mean, to be fair to Bolton, they had a lot of runners in and around the 18-yard box, but their goal, Dion Charles, 23 minutes in, we sit off them to start with. We allow them to basically push on us. Aaron Morley picks up the ball about 3 yards off the centre circle. He chips a ball over the top, and suddenly you see Lucas Engel is about 10 yards deeper than anybody else in our back line. Again, too much space between him and Darragh Lenihan. So once I think it's Gethin Jones plays a cut back into the area, Sheehan has made that run into that space. He shoots. It's kind of like a cross-come shot because he kind of skews it in that area between the goalkeeper and the defender. And then Glover parries it. Dion Charles poaches 1-0. It was better in the second half, I will say. I think Hackney got on the ball more, definitely. I think we were a lot more aggressive, as I said, that press. But yeah, I think Crooks as well actually was making some really good runs. But all in all, that first half was absolutely terrible. Really good that we got that win. But then again, if you follow that win up with a defeat, then that defeat becomes the foremost important part of a fan's focus because it's the very last thing that you saw. So frustrating. First half was shocking. Second half, much, much better. But then obviously we've taken a backward step with a defeat against QPR and an utterly, utterly abysmal performance.
Tom, we speak about like parallels and history is always a good thing in football because, you know, certain things happen at certain times. But all 3 or 4 season, we were exactly the same. Bottom of the table, 1 draw, 4 defeats, went on the cup run, and it ignited the season. Do you think that can do the same thing this year? Appreciate we don't have Mendy yet, we don't have Janine, we don't have Danny Mills, we don't have Bolzan, and we don't have these elite players. But the point I'm trying to make is, can a cup run maybe ignite what we want to do this season in the league?
I don't think so. Unless we're going to celebrate the 20-year anniversary of it by doing exactly the same thing. I don't think so because, like I say, I think there's too much in need of being fixed to think about that at the moment. I think one thing that cup game did show is that our best player was sat on the bench for most of the game yesterday. I mean, it's mind blowing to me how Sammy Silvera got a full 90 minutes because he was terrible yesterday. McGree should have been on from the start, and I don't know why he's not on from the start at the moment. But I would say that's one of the things in this system that needs to change. One of the best things about the system last year was McGree playing on that left-hand side, more of an attacking midfielder, more narrow than a winger, and creating that space for the wing back, and we just kind of don't see that anymore. But you know, he came on and changed the game, so I think you need to put him back in the squad, back in the first 11, based on that, and you know, based on anything he's done since he's came on in sub appearances and stuff this season, because he has been one of our best players, if not the best player, and it's baffling as to why he's not getting on the pitch. But yeah, I mean, that cup game, it should have been enough of a lift to get us over QPR yesterday, and then, like I said, just a baffling decision to leave him out, and it should have been so much better yesterday.
I think a cup run can ignite a season, but not when you draw Bradford away in the next round. Like, you need that proper Premier League scalp, not Bradford away. So,
but
maybe
also, like, take the learnings from the cup run, and it doesn't look like we've done that to the league.
You mentioned there, Tom, around McGreen not being in the squads. Two players that did play the game, Crooks and Force, they're now injured, out until after the international break, apparently. Do you think they're just as big of a miss as well? Because, obviously McGree brings a lot to the team, but Marcus Force was really influential last year. Crooks, probably prior to January, when he had to play as the number 9, was influential in games. But what do you think? Do you think they're going to be quite a big miss, or
I'd say Forces. Crooks, I don't like seeing him playing up front at the moment. I didn't like seeing him playing as number 10 either. I would much prefer to see him in one of the centre midfield roles. And I think one small positive I can take out of yesterday for me is that Coburn is looking a lot better than the last time I saw him play. I think in terms of his attacking movement, I mean, every time I see him, he looks bigger. So I'll get that out of the way first. It seems to be every game he's just a little bit bigger, but he's strong, he's mobile, and his positioning yesterday for some of the balls we were playing to him, usually balls over the top. He was just getting in front of the defender and holding that defender off and making sure he got to the ball first. I think his attacking movement is looking better than last time I saw him play, and I think compared to Crooks, he is probably the better option as second choice striker at the moment. So it might be a small blessing in disguise if, obviously I don't want Crooks to be seriously injured or anything like that, but if he does have to kind of miss the next game and Coburn gets his chance because of that, that might be a kind of small blessing in disguise. But I do think that we do miss Marcus Force on the right. I did like kind of seeing him play there last year as much as I would love to see him play up front instead. I think he did a good job there and was able to cut inside onto his left and get decent shots off quite a few times. So I think as a player of first team quality, Force is definitely going to be a big miss.
Okay, then. Well, let's move on and chat about QPR because you've both mentioned it. And obviously, Andre Dessel scored an absolute screamer to put the Rs 1 up and then call back, finish the game off. And it was probably one of the best strikes I've ever seen live. I think Andre Dessel's goal, to be honest.
Yeah. It's up there with, I think, M.A. Hughes, Birmingham,
yes.
I think it does. Yeah, I'd probably say.
Yeah, good Boro knowledge. Yeah, good Boro knowledge.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's all right. But yeah, like that. Honestly, that was a great finish. But callback finished the job. Boro 1 point from 15, bottom of the table. Dan, I know you were doing it a little bit earlier. That the system wasn't really working too much. It was abysmal. But how would you assess things yesterday? Because it just felt very, very flat.
Yeah, that's one word for it, Johnny. You know what? We have had time to disconnect and just basically emotionally disengage from this game. And I've woke up this morning and I still think we were utterly shite yesterday. It was painful to watch at times, really frustrating. Just a tough watch generally from us because we looked like we had never stepped on a football pitch. That 11 had never played together ever, passing, pace of the game, set pieces, finishing, defending, attacks down the wings. It was shocking. It was really bad. I can't pick out a single positive from that game on the pitch, but I tell you what, off it, we did have one positive, and it was that they finally sorted out those bloody scoreboards. Credit to Olivia for the photo there. They finally sorted the scoreboards, but back onto the game, honestly, it was terrible. You cannot sugarcoat that game. There was not one positive from it. Again, yeah, the build-up just really, it's not working. The 4-2-4 is not working. Silvera was doing my head in. Every time he cut in, he was aiming for Yusuf in the south stand. His shooting was terrible. Rodgers, every time it came into Rodgers, I will credit Morgan Fox here because I noticed he was doing a really good job man marking him. Every time Morgan Rodgers took the ball, his margin for error was very, very low because he was constantly swarmed. If Morgan Rodgers was not already on, if Morgan Fox wasn't already on Morgan Rodgers, then he was on him like a flash. And it made it really difficult for the ball to stick because he kept losing it. He kept losing it because Morgan Rodgers was breathing that. Morgan Fox, sorry, there's too many Morgans. Morgan Fox was breathing down his neck. What's going on? There was two. God, I've lost it. But yeah, honestly, he was struggling out there as I am struggling to get my words out right now. And it made it really difficult for Boro to just maintain possession and to get any sort of thing going. And then to add to that, obviously, as I mentioned, the build-up was just not working, kept breaking down. And again, Lucas Engel, really want to see him more advanced in the pitch in the first half, because obviously he was on my side in the east stand. I was like, get up the pitch. There is room there to be able to exploit them. But on the flip side of that, we were getting exploited out wide. And all it took was a little dribbly Elias Chair getting out as one-on-one, which is a problem in itself as well, because why are our fullbacks defending one-on-one? Why is there no tracking back from the wingers? Really, just really poor. Honestly, that's the worst game that I've seen since probably the start of last season, I would say.
Yeah, just on Engel, for me, like yesterday, it looked like the way he's currently positioned, it's like he's like playing with a handbrake on. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
whatever reason we've been told like to just sit in the shape, center shape. And last year, I could understand where the reason why we are playing like more of a flat four. I think just like last year when Giles got forward, McGree was more central. You've created so much space behind you to cover, so you easily get transitioned against on that right hand side. This year we've kind of went, okay, well we'll try and nullify that by keeping our full back forward, but then we've kind of lost something because of that. And that's things in football. But for me, Engel, he was quite dangerous in the last 25 minutes when he got down, he overlapped his fullback and he tried to get a ball in the box. I thought, you know what? That's exactly what I was hoping to see from you. And like, I still stand by. I think he's a good signing. I just want him to just like take the game out of the scruff of the neck, like we were saying like in previous podcasts. Just go for it. Like, I'm not bothered. Like if we go for games and we we are a gung ho side, and I think we've went from trying to be a gung ho side to a more like structured approach, and I think just don't think
which is ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, which is
structure is terrible.
Which is a bit odd, and I don't think we really need to do it. Sometimes your best form of defense is attack, really, and I think we just need to kind of make the most of those moments. But yeah, for me, Engel, like, just take the handbrake off him. Just let him get forward. Let him get forward and do.
He's
what
definitely
he needs to
being
do.
shackled, isn't he? He's been shackled on instruction, because I'm convinced he's not doing that naturally. He is an attack-minded fullback. Everything that we were told about him. I mean, he used to be a winger. Quite recently, actually, it wasn't until he came to Silkeborg that they turned him into a left back. So he's definitely being shackled. But I do want to say that we shouldn't really, and I don't think we are. But I want to make it very clear that we're not singling him out, because every single player on that pitch was incredibly poor yesterday, apart from Jones. But yeah, every time I think about that game, it pains me, because I thought frustrated, if that makes sense, but I felt physically frustrated after the game. That's why I've got this stress whale in my hand at the moment, because honestly, it was just a really, really abject performance. There are so many buzzwords that you can blurt out to describe this: abject, abysmal, really disappointing, frustrating, infuriating, shite. Sorry, I know I've sworn like 5 times in this podcast, but it just epitomizes the emotion after that game. We're so much better than that, or we should be, but that was really, really bad.
Tom, on the flip side, Boro are creating chances. It's the 5th game in a row that we've created more chances than the opposition, but we still find ourselves on the end of a bad result. So what's going on? What's going on? Like last year was a bit different. We were smashing chances away, but this year is a bit different. What's going on?
I wish I knew. We're just nowhere near as clinical, are we? Like, I think Laff must have missed about 5 or 6 one-on-ones yesterday, and he was getting in good positions to do them as well. I don't know if it's just kind of decision making, holding onto the ball too long, where he's trying to place those shots. But they're the kind of big chances that I can remember seeing from us yesterday, other than Sam Greenwood having to go from 25 yards and forcing a pretty decent save out of Begovic. But I wouldn't exactly class that as like a high quality chance or anything, because it just came out of nowhere. So it just seems to be that we're not as clinical. And I think that definitely comes down to the quality of the players that we have at our disposal. We don't have Chuba Akpom anymore. We don't have Cameron Archer anymore. I'm going to give Laff his due. His movement's great, and I think we've paid there for the attributes that he currently has. Skill-wise, he's not near the level of Cameron Archer. I think the plan probably is to train him to hopefully get somewhere near that level, to the point where he is contributing those goals, and then probably has resale value from that. Because let's be honest, like, if he has the attributes that he currently has and could finish a one-on-one consistently and has that composure, he wouldn't be playing for us. He'd be playing in the top league. We've definitely paid for the attributes that he currently has and the potential that he has, but he needs to be more composed in front of goal to put those chances away. And I think in general the chances that we're creating as well, we're just not fast enough in building them up. It's like we're constantly trying to create that perfect angle, or play that perfect pass. There's a lot of small 5-yard passes on the edge of the box, just trying to create like a 1-2 to get us into that position. And you know what? I'm pretty sure I said the same thing last year about under Wilder, when we were having the similar situation of all the underlying stats are there, but we can't finish. And we were doing exactly the same thing there. We're being far too patient in the build-up. There's being patient, and there's letting the team recover and get into a new defensive shape to stop us. So yeah, I think in terms of chance creation, we need to be much quicker on the ball, and it's probably going to come with getting confidence back up and hopefully getting our strikers to just put a couple of them away.
Can I just add to that about the speed? I looked at Opta Analyst before the game yesterday, so this could well have updated since. But Boro's direct speed is middle of the pack. We travel with the ball at 1.77 meters per second, which again, middle of the pack. I feel like Boro were much quicker last season, and going into yesterday's game, one of my pod note questions was, can I say with confidence that we are not pedestrian, slow, laboured, etc.? My answer to that is no, because we were pedestrian, slow and laboured. And it's frustrating because when you think of last season, and I know that it isn't the same personnel as last season, but we were so quick and incisive and we cut through teams at will. I'm not expecting that, but I expect us to not be how we are now, which is slow and predictable, and we don't really force things through that way, and we don't stretch teams. I think if you up the tempo, you stretch teams, you get them to move around the other side of the pitch, so it opens up the other side of the pitch. We're not doing that.
It's just like, obviously speed's probably the key term of football. I think when you look at movement off the ball, the speed to make a decision, speed of possession, speed of like physical attributes, football is really about speed and space. Really, I think when you're able to occupy space and use speed to take advantage of that, you create plenty of chances. And we haven't really done that. But Dana, there was probably, I would say, positives yesterday in terms of even first glances. Sam Greenwood coming in, Lewis O'Brien, they both made the debut. Can you see them coming in and making an improvement and becoming starters in the side after the international break?
Yeah, my favourite part of the game yesterday was when Lewis O'Brien came onto the pitch, because I don't care if I've seen him for like 20 minutes in a Boro shirt, but for me, he should be starting because he's such a well-rounded midfielder. He is very much box to box. He can tackle. We saw that yesterday. He can travel with the ball. He's a foul magnet. He won the second most fouls in the Championship the season before last. He can dictate a game. He can link up really well with teammates. He's just a really top quality midfielder. If we get the Lewis O'Brien of the last time that he was at Huddersfield in 2020-21, was that? Or 21-22, I can't remember. I think it was 21-22. But yeah, I really want to see him start, and I think he should be there in place of Howson. Sam Greenwood looked good. I enjoyed that shot that he had, because within that he picked up a really good pocket of space just outside the 18-yard box. And what I like about Sam Greenwood is that he doesn't have a weak foot, so he can shoot on his left, he can shoot on his right. So is that ambidextrous? Is that what it's called? Yeah. So I think that's really positive. So I'd like to see more of him, but it was, yeah, 2 positive cameos there. But I do want to see Lewis O'Brien start the next game.
Yeah, and I think he'd be a good fit as well. I think we're just thinking there, like how Greenwood would fit. What would we look to do going forward? Greenwood in that 10 role, McGree on the left. Would like to see Rodgers on the wing. I think his attributes as a player definitely suit to the ball being in front of him, and just trying to drive at players. I think that's where you probably get the most out of him. We've got a lot of different players this year. Last year, where we were trying to get balls in the box, this year we've got loads of dribbly forwards who would just like to get the ball forward, try to take them on, but I haven't really seen it too much to try. I think what we are doing is, and I've kind of picked up on it, is Silvera, and when you look at the other winger, whoever play there, like Jones, the first aim that they want to do is not to get down at the byline. It's more to come inwards and try to play the ball through. Whereas last year it was more of a case of, instead of trying to play through, we played outwards. And I think that's why you see this narrowness. And I think a 4-2-4, if you are to play that system, you want your your wingers to really stay wide. So that's how you stretch teams out. This year, it's more of a case of, right, let's just try and play inwards and just try to get the ball in behind. But I don't think it's going to work. There is moments where I see it and I go, yes, okay, I get that. But I think right now, I don't think it does work. What you will probably best see is, if your winger is able to come in and your wing back can try and play the ball like from the byline and try to get it, like play it back, that's where it'll probably suit us. Doesn't really suit us right now. And that's probably the main difference from last year in terms of system shapes. You could say 4-2-4, 3-2-5, main real state of players that we're trying to move inwards instead of outwards. And we don't really have someone in the box where I think, well, we can maybe say he scored against West Brom with the header lighter laugh. The option, the ability to do that connection might take time. But for me, yeah, we've got a load of dribbly forwards that will try and bring the ball inwards. But that is also like not a bad thing either. It's just how can you play the strengths to it, and you can do that by keeping them wide. So if we are to keep with this 4-2-4 system, maybe play with 4 centre halves, and try to like keep them like compact at the back, and then keep your wingers wide, and then see how that goes. But for me, you can't do what we're doing because it doesn't really work, which may see us change shape. I wouldn't even be surprised if we move to like a 3-4-2-1, to be honest, because then your dribbly forwards can stay behind the centre forwards. Your wing backs provide width. You've got enough compact shape behind you, and then you've got like a low box midfield as well if you really want to utilize that as well. With your 2 centre mids and then your 2 forwards in front of that as well. So there's plenty of things you can do. There's so many systems you can change. The 3-4-2-1 is not too similar to the 3-2-5 we played last year. There's loads of stuff we can do, but I'm excited to see what we do in the international break, because it's really big time for us. And I know Tom mentioned it. You mentioned it a little bit earlier on about the underlying numbers. I had a quick scan of them as well around XG and expected goals against. And actually, this year we pretty much emulate last year. So when and what the difference is between Wilder and what Carrick is that Chris Wilder's tenure, the end of his tenure, probably from March time, Middlesbrough's expected goals actually started to go on a downward curve over 11-game period. He did get sacked. I haven't really shown from the March period, but from the start of the season, Boro's XG and their expected goals against, so conceding big chances, was going up. So Boro were not making as much and then giving more away. Carrick and Leo comes in, Boro's expected goals flies up and then goes up even further to averaging over 2 goals a game under Carrick, and it goes really, really high. Our XG is fantastic at one point, but we do give away some big chances, but we're scoring more to kind of mitigate that. This year, where it's different from what Carrick and what Wilder was, is actually, and I know like we've got the both emulate to some extent 1.26 for Wilder and it's 1.28 for Carrick. 0.8 against for Wilder, 0.7 for Carrick. So better defensively, better going forward. But actually, we're creating more chances than we're giving away quite substantially. But we're just conceding stupid chances and not putting chances away. And that if you don't finish chances, then you may as well just pack in because you're going to get beat. And that's where Boro are currently at. It's very, very early in there. But then we are bottom of the league now. And off the ball, it seems to be a real issue as well. So how would you think we can look to improve in that area?
I want to see a more concerted effort to press, and I don't just mean hopefully chasing defenders and hopefully trying to close them down. I mean a set, planned type of press, because we're far too passive. We really are. Our PPDA, which is passes per defensive action, I'd look at it. It's 15.6, which means we allow the opposition around 15 passes before we press. That's mixing it with the likes of Cardiff, Sheff Wednesday, Rotherham, QPR. I think it's the 7th lowest in the league. No, sorry, the 7th highest in the league. So we do allow a lot of passes before we decide to press and action. So I want to see that number change. I want to see us allow far less passes from the opposition because, again, like I said, we are incredibly passive. And I also don't think we're aggressive enough. Like yesterday, yes, it was a fantastic shot from Dazelle. It really was. But then I don't really see us trying to engage. We disengage. And that's what I don't get. It's like, it's a very easy thought to think we need a bit of a outhouse in midfield to snap into somebody, but I just think we just need a little bit. We're too nice. I think we're far too nice, and it's a very Warnockism, isn't it? Because I remember when he criticised Anthony Dijksteel in the press for not taking a yellow card once, but maybe we just need that type of Rottweiler type midfielder that we've been missing for quite some years now. We had it with Morsey, to be fair, and he came on this podcast and we cursed him and he left. But somebody that I think can just be aggressive when we need them to be. We're far too nice in midfield, and yeah, I want to see more pressing because we're not pressing. I think our PPD has fallen off a cliff from last season, and then probably just someone in midfield there that can honestly just be aggressive. Just be aggressive. Slap someone's heels. I don't know. I don't care. We're just far too nice at the moment, and it's frustrating to watch.
I don't think it's even aggressive. I think it's just being assertive, like really assertive.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Take a game to someone. Like you want someone. You don't have to be aggressive in football. You just got to try and be on the front foot and try to take a game to someone. And that's how I see the game anyway. And I think that's how we should try to operate. And like you mentioned there on Boro's pressing and being way off, like also player intuition as well. Like you can blame the coaching staff all you want, but end of the day, it's only really about 25% of how they influence the game. Like the rest of it is what can a player do? What's his thought process? What's he thinking at that stage? And how can they like impact games? Because you can set up perfectly. You can have the most perfect shape. You can have the perfect like way to press. You can set things up at the end of like the training session. You could do something perfect, but on match day, it's on at the players. Like they've got to really, take advantage of the stuff that we're trying to do. And if sometimes if shape doesn't work, you can change it, try and change it. But at the end of the day, it's also players. Well, I think it is down to them, and the only people that can get them out of it is them, just Carrick as well. But Carrick's obviously not prone to criticism as well. He deserves it at times. I think he's done a couple of mistakes, but For me, it's more the players than I think the management staff at the moment. But Tom, is there anything that does give you hope though after the international break? Because there is time to work on the training pitch, and like under Karanka, we used to be crap for the first like 5-6 games, then come back and do really well. So, is there anything that does give you hope coming back after the break?
No, not really. I haven't seen anything to be positive about or anything. I think the only hope is that we do utilise this next 2 weeks and we come back looking better. But that's not a hope based on anything I've seen so far this season. It's just, I really, really hope that happens because it's going to be a long season if that doesn't.
How would you think we resolve it then? What would you do? Well, obviously, what would you do? You're not saying transactions, but how would you look to try and improve things in the break? How would you try and resolve the Boro's issues?
Well, I think the issues that we're having was such basic things, and it is the likes of, say, like I said earlier, pass selection from our centre midfielders, which I don't think we had a problem with last year. Carrick came in and Boro posted the videos of his first training session where he's given our centre mids advice on shifting the play and positioning and body positioning and stuff like that. That he should be still doing that on the training ground and helping to kind of eliminate some of these very, very basic problems, because first game or two where we were looking at it thinking our passing's like a yard behind people, we were thinking, okay, that's probably going to get resolved the more this team gels. We're still seeing it now, and it was probably worse than ever against QPR. We looked like a team who've never played together before, so it's going to be like training to do with cohesion and tactical training and stuff like that. Really coach these flaws out of them, because at the moment, like I said, they don't look like they've ever played together.
Yeah, you need to a good old team bonding exercise. Spaghetti and marshmallows. That old like corporate cheap away day thing that they do. But obviously with that as well, there's plenty of stuff to do. But I agree with you, Tom. They do look a bit disjointed. But then, is there anything that you would like to see post the international break? How can Boro try and resolve things?
Just revert back to the 3-2-5. Like, we have Lenihan, Fry, Smith as a back three, Howson and Hackney, or O'Brien and Hackney as a midfield two, and then 5 forwards, which would, have those 2 wide players. Because last season, and again, we are going to talk a lot about last season because it's the comparisons and it opens up a lot of conversations as to why we are seeing Boro start the way that we have. But having that width on that left-hand side in particular just allowed McGree to come in central whilst maintaining Boro's width in general. So it just gave us a really good platform to be able to have McGree venture into that half space, the area between the fullback and the centre half, and also still have that option out wide if we are getting crowded out a little bit, just to alleviate a little bit of pressure and stretch the play and try to break through that way. It's frustrating watching us at the moment. I don't really know why we've changed tack, because I just don't think that losing Giles and etc. is enough to then completely abandon it. If we were to start with that 3-2-5 build up and then it doesn't work, then you can say fair enough, at least we tried it. But even in pre-season, we were playing with that narrowness. I can't stand the narrowness. I can't stand the narrowness when you don't have width to complement it. We don't have that. And particularly, we don't have those advanced players in the final third to be able to just give us that route through out wide. Because I will say, Jones had a few moments yesterday, where he got to the byline and looked really dangerous. And then when Engel did move over into a more advanced area, I think it just gave us that extra option. And that's what I really want to see. I don't want to see Engel or Bangura or Coulson, whoever plays on that left-hand side, be shackled and instructed to stay back. As Tom said, I don't care if it's Huddersfield at home. We should be really imposing our game on Huddersfield at home rather than being a bit, not negative. I don't want to say negative, but trying to basically pander to them. I know that obviously you kind of have to negate other teams' strengths, but we should have enough in us surely to beat Huddersfield. But I don't know.
Yeah, different teams have different strengths and different weaknesses, which makes the game fun. You know what I mean? I think that's why you never see the same game over and over again. The 3-2-5 is something that we utilised last year. Can we go back to it? I think if we did go back to it, it'd still be a difference. You know, the players that are there now are different from what we had last year. And, you know, you can't really play the same. It's sometimes you can play a very similar, but you can't replicate exactly everything from last year, which is maybe we've kind of went away and thought, oh, well, like you were saying that, and we've lost these players, so maybe let's change it. Let's see how this 3-2-5 looks, and then maybe tweak it from there rather than what we've done previously. But let's move on. Do you want to do praise and place? The praise and place is the place. I'd like to give praise to Dana's Shithouse Island t-shirt, Tom's Mark Swartz memorabilia shirt just behind him, and any my chips and gravy yesterday, which were absolutely fantastic. But Tom, I'll come to you first. Who is in your praise and place this week?
No one. Nothing to smile about in our life, mate. But yeah, I don't think anyone deserves it this week, to be honest.
Dana, anyone in yours?
I'm going to go with Jones again. I think Jones was bright. He is so incredibly right-footed, though, isn't he? So incredibly right-footed. So maybe, like I did say in our Telegram chat, I want to see him on the left. I want to see him back on the right. I want to see him back on the right. I want to see us getting him to the byline and pulling the ball back that way. That's the strength of Isaiah Jones. He's very good at doing that. So, yeah, I'm going to say him. I was surprised when he got taken off. I'm surprised when Silvera lasted 90 minutes. I don't think he should have. I think Silvera will be good, but he just frustrated me yesterday. He really, really did. But Jones was the bright spark for me, so I'm going to put him in the praise and place.
Cool. I'll put him in there as well. He's frustrating as Jones to watch, but I think he deserves the plaudits yesterday. But I think O'Brien's and Greenwood were really good as well, so have some light praise. But quickly, just before we move on to the transfer window in general, just want to give a push to the FCAs. As you know, the voting closes on Sunday at midnight. So if you listen to us tomorrow on Monday, well, it's too late.
Too late.
For now. Too late for now. So if you listen to us on Sunday, this is exactly for you. If you haven't voted for us already, you can go to the footballcontentawards.com and then scroll down to Best Podcast and then Football League, and then type in Boro Breakdown and vote for us there. Or you can vote for us on Instagram. If you go onto the Football Content Awards page and find Best Podcast, and then also you can tweet it as well. So there's plenty of ways to vote. We got a finalist last year. We want to do one better this year. We want to see if we can get a third, second, or even a first. Who knows? But we can't do it if you haven't voted for us. But anyway, let's move on. Transfer window it shut earlier last week. 12 players signed, 15 players departed, 15 included all the loans that we had last year. But what was your thoughts on the window, guys? Tom, do you think it was a decent window?
I thought it was all right. I can see what we're trying to do with it. We are trying to sign players with potential and sell on value. At the same time, we're trying to, give ourselves that kind of first team quality to work with. And, we've had to replace key players as well. I very much like the acquisition of Dieng to replace Stefan with. I'm still looking forward to seeing what's to come from a few players. Van den Berg looks like an absolute unit for 19-year-olds as well. I was like, he is absolutely massive. He had a run against Huddersfield, I think, and he just looked like a tank. Like he's going to run over anything that's in his way. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of comes from him. I do still like the look of Morgan Rogers. I think it's just going to be the case of trying to find his best position or how best to utilise Morgan Rogers. But I think we picked up a good player there. So yeah, I think overall it's a decent transfer window. Obviously, I get that some people are going to be hearing that and thinking that we've not won in the first five. Like it's an atrocious transfer window and stuff like that. But quality-wise, I still think we've got it there. It's just we're not utilising it properly. And like I said, this is all going to come down to work on the training ground and hopefully come back better after the break. But I don't kind of want to sound negative, like being Carrick out or anything like that. But I feel like there's managers who could get the best out of these players. I'm not by no means saying sack Carrick and let's do that, but it goes to show the quality of these players. It's not like we're a very, very poor team and anyone's going to struggle, and we're going to require like a Neil Warnock miracle to start picking up points at the end of the season or anything like that. I think we've got the quality there. Like I say, we just need to utilise it properly.
Dana, what do you think? Is there anyone that excites you out of the transfer window?
I think Lewis O'Brien's my favourite transfer. Honestly, as I said, if we can get the Lewis O'Brien of the playoff season for Huddersfield, then we've got a very, very good player there, a very complete midfielder. Our squad depth, we've definitely filled positions numerically. The quality, of course, remains to be seen. I think Dieng's been a good signing so far. The data shows the exact opposite, if you want to put much weight into that. But from the eye test, he's been fine. Honestly, there's not a goal that he's really been at fault for. You could maybe squeeze out a slight bit of question mark over the Lucas Engel back pass, but to be fair, Thomas Asante passes it or just takes this deft touch around him very quickly after a rather bad first one. But Dieng's been a good signing. Rodgers I do like, although he had a bit of a stinker yesterday. I think the jury's out on the rest of them, to be honest. As I said, the quality, it remains to be seen, but I like how we have changed our approach and gone for players that do have that high resale value, because it might not be working right now. It doesn't mean that it's a complete flop and a failure. What I do want to see, though, potentially is a 4-3-3, because O'Brien, for me, gets into that midfield. It might be premature for me to say, but just from what I've seen of Lewis O'Brien in the past, he's a very good midfielder. I want to see him start. Howson can be the sitter. Your shout, Johnny, for the three at the back, I just don't think we have enough centre-back depth, which is what I'm looking at and thinking maybe that could be a problem. And then up front as well, I really wanted to see us sign that extra striker. But all in all, it's been pretty good. Time will tell on a lot of them. But yeah, we've filled out position. I mean, at the start of the window, we only had Hayden Coulson as a left-back option. Now we've got 3 options at left-back. So that's a big plus, because that was a big problem position going into the window. It's a shame that obviously we've lost Akpom, but I think there's certain attributes of Rodgers that could end up being good, although at the moment I don't think it's quite working for him in the number 10 position.
Okay, then there's another outgoing as well. Obviously, Chu was the big miss, but the one that was kind of always a big story was Martin Piero leaving. He signed for Udinese. Now apparently Boro got a report fee of 2.5. So that's pretty good going, given that we only paid 3 million for him anyway. And budget in terms, got money from him when he went to Boca, so you never know. We could have actually made a little profit on Martin Piero. Who knows? I'm not in the ins and outs of the detail, but Tom, why do you think it didn't work out for Martin Piero? Because there was so much excitement for him, wasn't there, when he came in, and just never ever worked, did it?
Too much barbecue, I think, was the problem. No, I'd be interested to kind of know the behind-the-scenes details of that. I do wonder if the language barrier was a problem. Obviously, it was mentioned when he came in that he didn't speak English, and Mac Crooks was having to kind of teach him some English words from sitting next to him in the changing room. What I do think went against him was the fact that he was signed clearly by the recruitment team and wasn't fancied by the manager at the time in Warnock. Then Warnock had a good 10 games of really using him sparingly, even though we could see a bit of quality from him when he came on. I think he came on against Bristol City, that first home game back after COVID, and in terms of ball carrying, he did look fairly decent. So you might think, there's something here. He scored a decent goal to get away at Cardiff. But he just never seemed fancied by Warnock. Then, Wilder comes in, has his own way of playing. Piero doesn't really fit that. Does he really fit into Carrick's way of playing? I haven't seen any of the games where he's even been on the pitch throughout pre-season or the cup games, which weren't televised. So I couldn't say if he fit into that formation or not, but it didn't sound like he did on BBC Tees and from what Maddo was saying. So I think he's probably been the victim of a few manager changes, but he's clearly got some quality there. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been to Boca Juniors, and he wouldn't have ended up at Udinese.
It's one of those players that'll probably sign for a random Premier League club for 100
No,
million.
it's time for Watford.
Oh yeah,
He'll sign for Watford. That's just
he's
the
scoring
journey,
against
isn't
the
it?
second half of the season once he's joined in January.
I want to say on him though, Craig Johns, obviously the reports of Piero's fee was, I think, much more than what it actually was. So Craig said that most of the rumours regarding Piero's fee were inflated in South American reports to include potential performance-related bonuses that have obviously never been met. So he believes it was around 3 million that we actually paid for Martin Piero, which is still, a waste of money, really. But he didn't impress. He didn't impress 3 managers, so we're not surprised that he's gone, unfortunately. I feel sorry for whoever got the Martin Piero 10 on the back of their shirt to try and get a signed one. There'll be a lot of people that did that amongst the craze and hype over him, and those shirts are basically redundant now.
Yeah,
I mean, they were anyway.
Yeah. Oh well, we move on. The 4 players then that we do want to chat about as well that have left: Akpom, Giles, Ramsey, Archer. They've gone on to bigger and probably better things for 50 million collated fees in the summer. Akpom obviously went to Ajax. Giles has gone to Luton, who look fish out of water in the Premier League, to be honest. Ramsey, is at Burnley, and Cameron Archer made his debut for Sheffield United and arguably scored 2 yesterday. I know one's technically an own goal, but it wouldn't have happened if he didn't take that shot, and showed his real quality yesterday against Everton. But does it show, Dana, that Boro had a lot of quality going forward last year?
Yeah, it absolutely does. I think we knew that at the time, didn't we? We were under no illusion that we had a very good attacking contingent and just a very good team. I am, however, and I know we have been guilty of this, a bit bored of talking about them now. We need our own new heroes. We need our new Gileses and Archers and Ramseys. And Akpoms. So yeah, hopefully we can get that so we can stop talking about them. The only reason we're talking about them still is because Boro are performing poorly. So hopefully that can change, and we've obviously already bid them farewell, wish them all the best, and then just forget that they ever existed, even though we can't. But, on this podcast anyway.
Okay then. Well, I want to move on to something a little bit different to cheer us both up. I'm calling this topic "What Nandos sauce do Boro players and coaching staff use?" And it's just very random. And I just thought I would cheer us both up. So I'd go on the periometer. You obviously got your extra mild, your medium, your hot, and your extra hot. So obviously the extra mild is either plain or it's lemon and herb, really. Or it's a mild, whatever. But we can have your medium, you have your hot, you have your extra hot. And I want to kick things off with Michael Carrick. I'm going to say, what sauce does he have on his chicken? Is it extra hot, medium, mild, or extra mild? Tom, what sauce does Michael Carrick have on his chicken?
I reckon mild.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
I think he could definitely be more of a. You know what? I could say he could be a plain guy. I think he just likes the simple things in life, and just goes, I just want a plain chicken, please.
I don't know. I wouldn't kind of go so far as to insult him and saying he likes plain chicken, but I don't know. I feel like mild is kind of really. I don't know, kind of really suits his playing style as well from his playing career. Just kind of like that sitting deep midfielder, and yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of lines up well for some reason. I don't know why. Don't ask me why, but I think that does connect well for some reason.
I get what you mean, but I'm going to flip it completely and say extra hot.
Okay, why? I'm curious by this answer.
No, because I think I'm taking what Tom said. He's very level-headed, Carrick, isn't he? Just generally, his management style is very level-headed. There were a few people giving him pelters yesterday after the game because he doesn't bark enough on the timeline. Like he's not Carlos Corberán and his flailing limbs. Carlos Corberán, by the way, is like those those things outside of car dealerships in America. That's Carlos Corberán, but Michael Carrick is like the opposite of that. He's just very kind of still and calm on the touchline. So I think that he would have extra hot just to spice things up a little bit of a wild card. People would expect him to be mild, but I think he'll be extra hot.
Okay, well, I'm interested to hear what you think of this one because I'm going to go with Dill Fry for the next one. So for me, I just think this is extra hot with more chilies. He definitely has a hot shot Parmo as well. Like, well, it doesn't got Nandos, but he's always a hot shot, extra spice. I just see that. I don't know why. I just want to see Dill Fry. I think, yeah, you're a proper Boro lad, you love your spice, don't you? So what do you think? Do you think Dill Fry is an extra hot chicken guy there?
I think he'll be mild for some reason. I just think he wouldn't be able to handle the extra hot. I don't know why. I just have a feeling he wouldn't. Like, I can see him there, like my dad does. Every time my dad like eats something spicy, he's doing that, like, like he's sweating intensely and he's burning up inside. He's really struggling to deal with like the slightest hint of spice. Like, I feel like that might be Dill Fry.
Okay then. Tom, do you have a suggestion on this one, or do you want me to move on to the next contestant?
I would say hot. I don't think he's quite extra hot. He maybe does that once every so often, but yeah, hot on that one. Okay,
then. When Riley McGree is the next one, Tom, so I'm going to stick with you. I if a mild is ever one, I definitely think Riley McGree is on that. He could maybe pass for a medium when he's been a bit adventurous, but I think for me, it's definitely probably mild. What do you think?
I don't know. I think he's hot as well. Like, I think again, not extra hot, but I can see him going for a hot sauce on his chicken.
But really, you really are saying like these players can really hold like the spices. I'm excited to see what we think here. But then you can go with Riley McGree or can pass. You want the next and final contestant?
Go for the final one.
I went with Isaiah Jones as the next one. I think this could be like a bit of a freaky one, to be honest, because I think he could, I think he might like the hot side of things. I think he could go all hot, maybe extra hot. Maybe he has like the sauce on us where it's like we're talking the black one where it's like extra hot. He could even. I think he's just got it in him. I don't know what you think, Dana. Anyway, but.
Yeah, I think extra hot. I agree with that. I think extra hot. What a ridiculous end to the podcast, by the way.
Yeah, well, I just thought, you know what, you've both been ranting for like the last 58, 59 minutes. So I thought, let's just cheese ourselves up a little bit and create a debate, because I feel like there's going to be listeners in this going, probably driving to work tomorrow and going, you know what, I think Isaiah Jones could be a mild,
God, I hope no one's listening to this in the car with their kids, please. I know that we're at the end of the episode, but like, turn back time, please don't listen to this.
It's too late now, Dennis. Too late now. Yeah, trying to problem now.
I'll put some quacks in the audio.
Nah, I don't need to do that. Anyway, I was going to do predictions for Blackburn, because we do actually have a game after the international break. We will be doing an opposition show.
Do we have to?
Well, you don't have to, but
do we have to have a game?
I mean, yeah, whatever. Well, you can do your predictions then, because Blackburn last year was pretty much one of those games where you think, wow, we are actually going to do something special. But predictions, Tom.
You know what? I'm going to go with 1-0. I'm going to go with 1-0 Blackburn. No, to Boro. I'm going to be optimistic here. I think we're going to have a good couple of weeks on the training ground, come back and really grind out that result. I don't think it's going to be anything special, but it might be the one that kind of gets us on our way. So, yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 Boro.
Dana, what do you think?
I'm not sure, because I don't know where our next win's coming from, to be honest. When you look at our next games, Blackburn, Sheffield Wednesday, Southampton, and then Watford. Obviously, there's a game against Bradford in amongst that as well. I mean, everyone will probably look at Sheffield Wednesday and think we'll beat them, but we probably won't, knowing us. And Blackburn away is a difficult one, because Sam Gallagher exists, and I would not be surprised to see him smack one top bins from about the halfway line. We got away with one last season because he didn't score against us in that Ewood Park fixture, so he will probably make up for that this time. Can't see us winning, I can't lie, so I'm going to go with 2-1 Blackburn, and I'm going as well, so yeah.
God, I'm glad I'm not going. It's 1-1 for me. But guys, thank you very much for joining me as always. I hope it was a bit of therapy for you, and I hope it was a bit of therapy for the people listening as well. And if you enjoyed our podcast, do give us a 5-star rating on your podcast provider. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. It helps us get found and all that kind of fun stuff. We are the happiest and the most negative podcast out there, given our Twitter mentions. But for right now, Boro hit rock bottom. And Boro need a people's elbow to get ourselves back up there. This has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was like a Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.